Ladies and gentlemen, it is week 10 of the NFL season. That means it is time for picks and predictions for every single game. Last week, historic week. We didn't get a single pick wrong, but it's a new week. That means it's time to get back to business. Okay, what we need you to do is hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button, leave a like, leave a comment, all of that good stuff. And then sell your PS5. Sell your Xbox Series S, X, Series Z, whatever it's called. Sell it. Get on the phone with dad. Tell him to give you $1,000 and then call your bookie because we're about to make you a very rich man. All right, let's get right into these picks. First game of the week, we got the Texans and the Browns in Cleveland. I have Brett's picks, by the way. Nick Chubb, it kind of sounds as of Friday evening that he is going to return. That's a pretty big deal because the Houston run defense is the worst in the NFL. And prior to the Nick Chubb injury, the Cleveland Browns had the best run offense in the NFL. But since Nick Chubb's been out, they've had the 26th best run offense in the NFL. So him coming back means they could probably pound the rock a little bit more against this horrid, terrible piece of shit Texans run defense. So we both have the Browns in this game because of that. But I will say this: if this gets into a quarterback showdown where the whoever the best quarterback is going to dictate who wins the game, I think the Texans will win just because Deshaun's been absurd this season. His team just sucks. But I think the Browns will be able to run the ball to completely avoid that even being a possibility. All right, next up we have Washington and Detroit. What a game here, man. It really is a great week of games. A lot of star-studded showdowns, including this one. The football team and the Detroit Lions. I do not think Alex Smith should see the field. It's nuts to me that guy's playing. It's a great story and all, but that guy should not be on an NFL field. Okay. I do think that the Lions win the game here, as does Brett. I did see a stat that said football team has not won a game this season when they've played a quarterback who is in the top half of QBR in the league, and Matthew Stafford fits into that category, being in the top half of the league in QBR. That's interesting. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Washington's offense is absolutely terrible. So when they go up against good offenses led by good quarterbacks, obviously the Lions aren't even really a good offense, but when they go up against offenses with a quarterback who can score points, it's tough for them to keep up. And I think that's what's going to happen this week. I think the Lions outscore Washington, make it difficult for them. Next up, we have the Jags and the Packers. I mean, come on, right? Come on. It's the Packers. The Jags have one of the worst defenses in the NFL. Do I think that they can stop Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers? No, I do not. I don't think Jesus Christ could stop that duo himself. Do I think they have the offense to keep up with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams in a shootout? No, I do not. I do not think Jake Luton can do that in his second start. Last week against the Texans blitzed him a good amount, and he was very obviously uncomfortable. The Packers do not blitz that much, but coaches are smart. They saw that tape, and they know that if they can get to Jake Luton, they'll force mistakes. So we both got the Packers here. Next up, we have the Eagles and the Giants, an NFC East showdown. Battle for first place in the division here, even though I think the Eagles would still be in first, even if they lose. When was the last time the Giants beat the Eagles? I don't even know. It feels like never. We have two really, really great quarterbacks in this game. Both of these quarterbacks playing out of their minds. Carson Wentz showing why he was worth that number 2 overall pick, showing why you made him the highest paid player in the NFL at the time, or at least one of the highest paid players in the NFL, showing why he's a fifth-year quarterback in the league, all of his progress up until this point. Daniel Jones showing why he was worth a top 7 pick. Both these quarterbacks playing on another level entirely. But we're going to go ahead and go with the Eagles here. Remember, man, Daniel Jones is 0 for his last 17 against teams not named Washington. And I think that trend continues here just simply because the Giants cannot beat the Eagles. I don't know what the fuck it is. They just can't do it. Next up, we have the Bucs and the Panthers in Carolina. Bucs, of course, coming off of one of the most embarrassing losses you'll ever see. Saints took them behind the shed and just fucked them. Panthers have lost, 3 games in a row, 4 games in a row, something like that. Yeah, we both had the Bucs here. The Panthers have been competitive in every game they've played. I think that they've looked impressive this year. They looked really good against the Chiefs. Couldn't pull that one out, but they were in it up until the very end. Christian McCaffrey is out, I believe. But it does kind of sound like it's only going to be a 1-week type of thing, and he'll be back next week. But, Mike Davis showed early on in the season that he was more than capable of handling the running back duties himself. But this is a very good Buccaneers run defense, even if their defense as a whole has kind of been underwhelming as of late. But I think the Bucs right the ship here. I think I saw a stat that the Bucs are averaging like 30-something points a game after losses so far this season. So I think they come out here looking to, calm everybody down after that fucking pathetic performance against the Saints on Sunday night. All right, next up we have the Broncos in the Raiders in Las Vegas. This is kind of a tricky one. I'm going to be honest with you. I kind of struggled with this one. We are both picking the Raiders just because, the Raiders are a better team. Obviously, Denver's really, really hurt. But I just have a really weird feeling that Phillip Lindsay's going to go nuts or something. And the Broncos are going to score a lot of points via their ground game, something they haven't been capable of doing so far this year. But the Raiders' run defense has been terrible this year. And I just have a weird feeling Phillip Lindsay's about to run into a huge game. He's looked good this year at times. So maybe they lean on him a little bit more and he goes off. But I am going to pick the Raiders. Okay, I just think that they're a better team. They're a better offense. If it comes down to who scores, who can score the most, which obviously that's how every fucking game comes down to. But if it comes down to who can put up points the quickest, I think that's the Raiders in this scenario. Obviously, you have, a battle of the two highly drafted wide receivers, the first two wide receivers taken in the draft, both from Alabama. Ruggs for the Raiders, who has kind of not done anything, and Judy for the Broncos, who's looked really good over the past few weeks. This is going to be, I think, a closer game than a lot of people are expecting, but I'm going to pick the Raiders. Next up, we have the Chargers and the Dolphins. This is one of the most exciting games of the week, I think. Obviously, you have the number 5 overall pick in the draft, quarterback Tua for Miami, and then you have the number 6 pick in the draft in Herbert for the Chargers. Obviously, both those guys look like franchise cornerstones for their teams, even though we've only seen Tua for 2 weeks. But you can just kind of tell. You can kind of just tell when a player has it. Tua looks like he has it. Herbert obviously looks like a superstar in the making. So this is going to be a tough one, man. This is really going to be a tough one. The Dolphins have looked really good as of late, especially defensively. Like they won that game against the Rams with their defense. I know they gave up 31 points or something to the Cardinals last Sunday, but they got giant stops when they needed to, and this could turn into a shootout for sure. I think. I am going to pick the Chargers, even though the Chargers are completely allergic to winning, and at times it even seems like they hate winning. But I think that they pull one out here. I think that offensively they might have a little bit more firepower than the Dolphins. And if it does come down to a shootout, I think that they could outpace the Dolphins. But it's going to be a fun game to watch, that's for sure. Next game up is the Bills and the Cardinals. Another good game here. The Bills coming off of a giant win against the Seahawks last week. The Cardinals coming off of a bad loss against the Dolphins, a game that they probably should not have lost. Not because they're better than the Dolphins or anything, but the way they play, they should not have lost that game. This is an interesting one. This is going to be a shootout, I think, for sure. This is definitely going to be a shootout. Obviously, you see right there, the Cardinals have the number 1 offense in the league as far as yard per games goes. I believe the Bills were like top 2 or top 3 4 or 5 weeks in the season. They kind of fell off a cliff a little bit and struggled there for a handful of weeks. But the past 2 weeks, they've really stepped it up, especially last week against the Seahawks. Josh Allen looked absolutely amazing. So I think that this is going to be a shootout. I mean, Kyler Murray versus Josh Allen is a really fun quarterback duo to watch, just how those two guys play. Josh Allen, he likes running. Kyler Murray likes running, but they run in different ways. Or Josh Allen runs like a fullback almost, and Kyler Murray runs like a scat back. So it's going to be pretty fun to watch. I am picking the Bills in this one, however, as is Brett. Just think that they're a better team right now. I just think their defense, which looked really, really bad early on, has really picked it up over the last couple of games. Their run defense is their weak point, and the Cardinals have just not been able to get the run game going at all this year. So I think the Bills win this one. Next up, we have the Seahawks and the Rams. This is a big game as well. NFC West matchup here. Both these teams looking for wins. Seahawks coming off of a bad loss against the Bills, of course, and the Rams coming off of a bye week. But before that, they got absolutely ran through by the Miami Dolphins. So both of these teams looking for wins. I'm picking the Rams. Brett is picking the Seahawks. If the Seahawks won last week, I would be much more confident in picking the Rams. But, since they lost, I kind of just have a feeling they're going to come out and really want to, really avenge their loss from last week. But the Rams are coming off of a bye, so they've had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. This is a massive divisional game. I just think that the Seahawks defense is just so bad, man, and this Rams team is so good at getting yards in huge chunks and just moving down the field, moving down the field and taking advantage of porous defenses. That's what McVay's really good at is taking advantage of defenses and going at their weak spots. And for the Seahawks, that's their entire defense. So I think that the Rams are going to be able to put up points this week, and I think their defense does just enough to slow down Russ to the point where they get the win. Okay, next up, we have the Saints and the 49ers. Of course, last year, this was, one of the better games you'd ever see. But unfortunately, the 49ers are just way too hurt. George Kittle, who made that play last year to set up the game-winning field goal, one of the craziest plays of the season, he's obviously out as well. Yeah, this would have been a much more fun matchup had the 49ers been healthy, but the Saints have been rolling as of late. The 49ers have been rolling too, but rolling into the medical tent because they've just been so hurt. I think that the Saints win this one, as does Brett. I think Michael Thomas has his first big game of the season. The 49ers secondary, it gets picked on at times. Teams have been capable of finding their weak spots and attacking him. I think Sean Payton is probably able to do that with Michael Thomas this upcoming weekend. So, yeah, we both have the Saints there. Next up, we have the Bengals and the Steelers. Let me say this. I'm like 50-50 on this game, actually. I really am. I do think the Steelers win, as does Brett. But the Steelers have just, the last few weeks, it feels like the Steelers have just been begging for a loss, right? They've been playing sloppy. They've let their opponents hang in the game until they eventually have to pull away there at the end. But I just think defensively, in the end, I think defensively they're going to be a little too much for Burrow in this Bengals offense. But I have a weird feeling about this game where I think maybe the Steelers sort of come out looking sluggish and the Bengals come out wanting to send a message, wanting to get a win against a division rival, one of their biggest rivals, and send a message to the Steelers saying, you can have this year, but we're coming. But ultimately, I do think that the Steelers win. Like if I had to pick one, I'm picking the Steelers, but I do think that the Bengals have a shot. Just a weird, sneaky feeling. They could end up losing this game 35-0 too, but we'll see. Next up, we have, I believe, the Sunday night game. Yes, it is. The Ravens and the Patriots in New England. This is a weird one too, man. I do still feel like even if the Patriots might not make the playoffs, even if they might miss out on the playoffs, I still think Belichick is going to get a win against a team that the Patriots probably shouldn't beat. Does that make sense? Could this be the week against the Ravens? It's possible. The Ravens have not looked all that great as of late. Lamar has not looked all that great as of late, even though he did look much, much, much better in the second half last week against the Colts. If that's a sign of things to come, I think the Ravens are looking pretty good moving forward. But I just don't know. The thing is, the Ravens put up 40-plus points last year against this Patriots team when their defense was way better than it is now. So I think the Ravens win this one, as does Brett. And this could be like a kind of a slow, boring, low-scoring game as both these teams look to run the ball. I mean, that's kind of what the Patriots have been trying to do lately is run the ball. I think that's when they're at their best offensively because they don't have the weapons offensively to be airing it out. And really, neither do the Ravens. So both these teams are at their best when they're running the ball. So if we see that this weekend, I think the advantage goes to the Ravens, and I think ultimately it might be a boring game. But we'll see. But we both have the Ravens in this one. And then Monday Night Football, we have the Vikings and the Bears. Now, you guys do know that I've been very critical of this Bears team. I hate them. I hate talking about them. But I do kind of think this is where they are, 5-4. That makes sense. I think that they're around a 500 team, whether that be 500, whether that be a game above 500 or a game below 500. I think that's kind of where they finish. The Vikings, on the other hand, they've looked a lot better the last 2 weeks. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they've just let They've let Dalvin Cook just, run wild on opposing teams' defenses. I do think, honestly, I'd have to go back and look. I don't know if I picked the Bears to win a single game this year, but I am going to pick them this week. I am going to pick them this week. I think that they will be able to stop Dalvin Cook at least enough to force Kirk Cousins to beat them. And Kirk Cousins is 0-8 in his career on Monday Night Football. There's really nothing. There's really no reason to think that Kirk can drop back the pass and beat this Bears defense by himself. There's just no reason to think that. Of course, offensively, the Bears, they're not going to put you away. So the Vikings will have every chance to win this game. I do think that the Vikings, even though the records might not indicate it, I think they are a better team than this Bears team just because the Bears are so inept offensively. I did just see before recording this that Nagy is giving up his offensive play calling duties. So maybe that lights a spark in the team. I don't know. Maybe that lights a fire and they score some points. Who knows? But I'm picking the Bears here. Brett's picking the Vikings. that's all we got for you this week. Again, every single one of these picks will be correct. So you're welcome. And, subscribe to the channel, like the video, all of that good stuff. We will have a full pod out tomorrow. Brett is making his return, finally. He's coming back. He's coming home. So look out for that. Like the video, leave a comment, all that. Goodbye.